my name's Indy, and gentleman next to me is Jay Powell from Powell Group Consulting, and welcome to another amazing episode of Indie Game Business. Today we've got JRod Gingerich, and he's talking about physical game publishing and distribution. And this just goes to show you that you can work in the gaming industry even if you are off grid. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, welcome, JRod. Let's start where we always do. Tell us how you originally got into the industry, and then walk us through what you've done up to this point.
Absolutely. With me, I had a unique career path. I started out as a young teenager. I was dabbling in video game development using DarkBasic Professional. It's previously, prior to say something like Unity. It's a great way to really explore if you're interested in video games and trying to get into the industry. Once I learned that and I was pretty comfortable with it, I went to college. I hold an associate's and bachelor's degree in video game design and development. Following that, I moved out to California, where I worked a couple different jobs, mainly working for Sony. I was a video game tester out there for about 6 months. I worked on LittleBigPlanet Karting. That was a pretty unique title. And from there, I worked on actually establishing my own company, where I worked on Indie Assault. It was a 2v2 team-based fighting game. We're going to be bringing that to PlayStation 4. Sadly, we were unable to raise funding, but we actually partnered with DX Racer back in 2017 and had a spot on the E3 show floor. But we just couldn't get basically an investment firm to push the game to completion. We had the pre-alpha, everything was integrated into it, but just couldn't really find that company to take us to the finish line. Following that, I left the video game industry, moved into films. I did a bunch of music videos for some really awesome indie bands down in San Diego, Splavender, Infected Rain. Following that, I actually moved to Oregon. In the last couple of years, I've been working. I got back into the video game industry and focusing on physical video games. My passion is I currently live off grid, so everything I buy, including films, is all physical media. Going back to that, I'm really passionate about supporting indie game developers and allowing them to offer what they might not traditionally have, such as Steelbooks and other really nice versions for these smaller companies that wouldn't financially have the opportunity to.
So, I mean, Dan had the big question, because you're the first company I've come across that is off grid. So why are you? Well, I can probably imagine why you're off grid, but how do you go about running the day-to-day of a publishing company when you're living off grid?
Excellent question. Well, with that in mind, I do the majority of my work at the local library. I'm able to complete, such as setting up. I've got all the product listings for Speed Alarm. It's currently available for pre-order through our direct website, Fresh Brewed Games. In the future, once it starts shipping, it'll be available on Amazon and Walmart. With that in mind, once you have everything in the pipeline, basically I've got all my systems and productions already established. So once we're ready to go, I can just submit and those will go live. And then from that, like the day-to-day, I'll just be able to utilize my phone or tablet and be able to start shipping out the orders. We actually had a new Amazon warehouse, so I'm excited to be able to have pretty rapid fulfillment in terms of our Amazon deliveries.
So did you decide to do the physical route before you went off grid, or did you go off grid and then decide I mean, they obviously pair together, but which came first and what was the influence?
Actually, I moved to Oregon and I was just kind of contemplating. I'm a huge entrepreneur and just love different things. I was focusing on a zebra entertainment business. I was going to teach it to basically domesticate it and teach it to be able to ride for kids like rich movie stars. Fortunately, my neighbor's dogs came over, killed, and ate it. So it was like a $10,000 pork chop or zebra chop. Following that, I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, and I moved it back into video games. Reconnected with a couple of my friends back from 2017. They said, hey, physical games are, good thing. Seeing the shift that we've been seeing in the last 2 to 3 years with huge conglomerates actually downsizing and more independent companies, it makes it a great opportunity for physical games, along with being able to bring something different to the forefront for these developers and, great IPs that we're seeing that are from 5 on up to, 100 people teams, like No Rest for the Wicked, which is, they made Ori. Now they're making this amazing, huge, new, exciting RPG.
So, well, I had the question in my head and then it's just like, oh, gotcha. Hold on. So I mean, I started doing this 30 years ago. Physical was all we had. I mean, there was no Steam, there was no iPhone, all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with the market, but it also nearly died for many years, and it is starting to come back now. And so, I would say globally, there's probably about a dozen companies that do what you do in terms of the physical side of it. And so it's almost making a bit of a comeback. How do you position yourself against the bigger publishers, and what makes you stand out and be different?
That's one of the things on our website. It's why did we create this company, and why are we trying to work with independent developers and also new consumers? I've had a passion for movie steelbook collecting. I've been doing it since early 2018, 2019. I've brought that over inside my tiny house. I have my walls aligned like Blockbuster, and I wanted to go towards something that I'm passionate about. Video games and steelbook collecting are a big part of me, and I'm bringing that to the video game industry. We're the first company that only focuses on the steelbook release. We do 3D printing of our designs, and we just do really fantastic, basically WIA, world exclusive art. And it just really works with talented artists across the industry to really highlight these unique video game characters and bring them to the forefront.
I'll probably have more questions for you about living off grid than I do about video games, but unfortunately, that's not why not why everybody tunes in. My wife and I watch a ton of those Alaska shows where everybody's living off grid.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge? I mean, and let's do this two-part. What's the biggest challenge to living off grid in the first place? And then what's the biggest challenge and how that impacts what you're doing, with the company?
I'd say the biggest challenge for me personally, I live on like the southeast side of a large hill, mini mountain. With that in mind, it's almost impossible to be able to dig for septic in a well. They wanted close to 50 to 60,000 just to drill for a well. So with that, it's just getting water. I live off grid, and I basically haul in water in terms of like my water necessities, and just have like a compost toilet that I use for the tiny house. So it's just a real different type of, I want to say, cultural setting compared to like the modern norm to what we do with living off grid. We still have all the same amenities. I have a refrigerator. I have a movie theater set up that all runs off the sun. I have a really nice solar system. It's completely off grid with 8 lithium ion batteries it charges. In the summer, I actually produce more electricity than I use. And then in terms of like the gaming, I would probably say the biggest thing would probably be the lack of like data. All of like the video game components we have, such as the physical, I have a warehouse that I actually live it's placed on my lot. But in terms of just, I want to say like more like daily interaction. So like I'd say with like customer service, post shipping, it'll be like all through, email, and that'll be very like specific hours when I'm at the library, like, I don't know, 12 to 3 or 12 to 2, being able to work with those and get that all completed.
So what makes we've talked about steelbooks here before.
Yeah.
But I always love this take on it. So what makes a steelbook physical release different than a regular physical release?
For us, our company, we're pro developer first. So similar to film companies, they'll do like one or two, they'll do a Blu-ray, a 4K, maybe a DVD, because DVD still sells really well. And then also the Steelbook. The Steelbook is usually like the highest, but there's companies called like Mantalab, Blue Fans, Sign Museum. They do these really amazing Steelbook with a full slip. With our company, we do that high quality full gloss with the 3D printing on our Steelbooks for our video games. And then we include like a really nice, I'll show you right here. It's a holographic art card. It actually has kind of like the controls on the back. So it's, in a way, it's like your manual, but it's a great way for us to differentiate ourselves because of our case. And then also with our, like, in terms of our manual, allowing players to have the best version of the game physically.
So is it just the game and a manual, if there is a manual, or do you do like the collector's edition stuff as well that has a lot of add-ins?
Like the statues, no. With us, we specifically just focus on the high-end Steelbook, the holographic art card, which has the controller layout on the back, and then the physical PS5 disc.
So,
yeah.
Sorry, chat. What kinds of teams are you looking for? I mean, this is always one of the big questions that when developers are out pitching their projects to publishers in general, I would imagine if you're focused on, the physical releases, you're not doing development funding. So you're looking for games that are already complete, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we don't offer any in terms of like funding for development for projects. We do our first 2 projects. I'm thrilled to say we're going to be releasing the definitive edition. I know that sounds crazy, but like AAA, they do it all the time. But for us, working with these indie studios, they've been able to spend a couple extra months due to the extra funding they'll be receiving from the physical version to implement additional changes and feedback from players post-launch edition. So that's exciting. That'll all be on the disc for the first 2, Speed Alarm and Project Tower. And then just with us, it's having these great games and working with developers that have unique properties. For me, I'm a huge like action fantasy type of character. I like really stuff that's dark and gritty. So we've actually been approached like pre-GDC this month about a couple properties. We're looking for games that are, visceral. I love racing. That's my favorite video game genre. So any games in that. But stuff it's more hardcore. I want to say for like the core gamer, so Metal Gear Solid, Darksiders stuff. It's really just absorbing and has a great way to draw on the player. Not so much into like the sim, cozy games, strategy. I like more of like action, being able to see your character, first-person shooters. I want to work with like Mad Jack Mullet. I think that game would be fantastic, bringing that physically to players.
So you're already tearing through a lot of the questions I had, because I was going to ask you if you could if you have something on that wish list.
Yeah.
Aside from that one, are there any others?
There's Mad Jack Mullet. In terms of this year, we're trying to work with, what is it? Metal Eden. It would be fantastic. And in terms of the video game industry, I actually only have one direct competitor. They're an unlicensed, uncertified distributor for video game steelbooks. With that, so we'd love to work with this property. It's a bigger, I'd say it looks like a AA property. Assist them with creating the best steelbook version that players and doing it post-release. We love adding all that extra like day 1 patches and stuff, so players aren't like, hey dude, it's great, I have the physical, but like Tekken 8, there's all these cool new avatars and character fighters that you don't have on your disc. So being able to bring that, put it on the disc, and have this amazing artwork. We're trying to this year work with Tony Infante, so if we can find a good fit in terms of like a bigger scale IP or property, we really want to hire him and bring him on to do some amazing covers, because he's been doing them for like video game magazines, EGM and whatnot, and they're just outstanding.
So what do developers need to know before they submit a game to you for publishing? I mean, what are some of the things that they need to keep in mind in order to maximize their level of success?
It's going to vary to each different physical release publisher. My label specifically, we do not print or manufacture any games that are online only. So like I wanted to work with Helldivers 2. That doesn't have any like offline functionality, or Turbo Golf, that online. That game's fantastic, well received, but it doesn't have any offline components. The second thing is looking for like the genres. You'll see there's super rare games, limited run games, Rocket, Premium Edition, Red Art, all kinds of different. When you look at a physical distributor, try and align with one that fits kind of your studio. If you have a really cool cyberpunk game or whatever, you go with us, or we're a different competitor. But if it's like a sim cozy game, we don't really work with, I want to say like any game would be like E-rated, unless it's a racing game. Probably won't appeal to us to publish it. So make sure it like almost like your digital publisher, that when you do your physical. And then also for independent developers, in your contracts, be sure to ask up front. It's a hill they won't die on. Ask for the final say on your physical release options. We've tried working with a couple companies that their publisher had other retail agreements, even though they weren't Steelbook, that inhibited them from working with us. So just put in your contract to see about having the final say, because that's not a huge like a area that a digital publisher will be like, oh, we won't sign your game because of this. So make sure you add that in. That way you guys can feel confident and comfortable. If you want to do a collector's or a statue or whatever, you guys have the option.
Yeah, it's one of those areas that, I mean, it's hard enough at this point to get a lot of publishers to separate digital from physical. And then if you start going into, okay, we're going to give you the rights to do certain kinds of physicals, but not others, it's I've seen it work both ways. I mean, some of the publishers will be like, I don't care. we're not going to go to that space anyway. And others are going to be just adamant that they have to do everything. So, I mean, with the genre recommendations, is that a market thing, or is that just like this is what we want to focus on? It's not like Cozy Games won't sell in a Steelbook. It's just, that's not what you're into.
It's just not what I'm into. With our company, we actually started, compared to some of our other smaller companies, fully funded. So our first 2 releases are completely paid for, both the disc Steelbook releases. So when you're actually purchasing these, you're purchasing the 3rd and 4th SKUs to allow us to be able to develop those and, continue with what we're offering. The genre specifically, I'd say it's more of like company based. I'd say like Josh at like Limited Run, he has very specific, most of his games anymore, I'm going to say AA, AAA, or if it's indie, it would be something like Gex, the trilogy, where it's like it has a huge market previously that might not be like a modern audience.
I mean, is that a challenge? I mean, you're going after really niche games right now. I mean, is that a challenge when it comes to the sales side? How do you adjust for that, when you are competing against folks that are going and getting much more well-known titles?
I think fundamentally it's just more of like the scale. We're with us, we have no like legal limitations or restriction that would inhibit a developer or publisher from working with other companies. So we could actually work on, say, like I tried working with Expedition 33. They hired Maximum Games to do theirs. They just kind of did like a very rough Steelbook. The Doom Dark Ages, it won't even house a disc, and it's a very just basic, just I want to say like a logo over the front with nothing on the back. So just us, we're trying to work with our bigger games. It's all more like stepping stones. Now we've got, I want to say Speed Llama's like very niche. If you love retro, running gun Contra, like it's perfect for them. Project Tower is more of like, I want to say middle line. I want to compare it more to Scars Above. There's been some like reviews that have been comparing it to like Mass Effect and other huge space odysseys, and they didn't have the budget for that. So that wouldn't be an appropriate, I want to say, comparison side by side. That to me feels more like a AA game. We're working on, but we work with everybody, AAA, indie, AA, kind of whatever game that fits our style and, wants to work with us.
All right. So I may be asking a dumb question, but I mean, everyone listening is used to that anyway, so it's perfectly fine. Are you sticking just to console, or are you doing PC too? Because I honestly don't remember the last time my PC had a drive.
With us, we only do console. Right now, We're only certified with PlayStation. We tried getting physical with Nintendo. They're a lot more strict. So working
what
towards
about Xbox?
that. No, just Xbox. Physically, unless you're selling, like I want to say, was it Hellblade 2? The indie games probably won't sell. You won't recoup any profit.
That's good to know. That's always handy. I mean, Do you see this? Because we are approaching the end of a cycle. I mean, the Switch 2 is going to come out at some point this year by all guesses. And then, how far is it going to be before we do a PlayStation 6 and if there is a new Xbox? But, do you think that the PlayStation is going to be the only place that you all stay going forward, or do you see expanding out any?
Traditionally, in terms of the gaming industry, probably only with PlayStation, because they're the traditional G2 standard size disc. We're looking at doing like video game animes such as Arcane. Arcane season 1 got a Steelbook release from G Kids. It was a very pretty much basic Steelbook design, just like Vi and Jinx, their faces on the cover. With us, we really push everything that we do. We're just like a company that has huge passion. As much as these developers and publishers pour into like the love for this property, we want to do the same in the physical release. And just there's a lot of like good animes that I don't know, they don't like video game stuff too, because we're seeing Twisted Metal. I'd love to do like a Twisted Metal season 2 Steelbook. So that would definitely.
I would love for somebody to do a Twisted Metal game again. I mean, that's just
that's asking a lot. They canceled the last Twisted Metal game like last year with Fire Sprite, which knife in the heart.
Yeah, it's one of those that we haven't had a good vehicular combat game in a long time.
Yes,
and that is like the king of it right there. I mean, so did you say you're doing 2 games this year? How many games are you launching this year?
This summer, we're trying to push out as fast as we can. With us, these are our first titles, so it's just a little bit more like back end work we're finalizing, specifically with the 2 updates for Speedolama, which will be done next week, and then with Project Tower, it'll be done middle of March, maybe early April. Once we get those, we get to submit those for the disc manufacturing, and hoping to have those out in our pre-orders for our 3rd and 4th SKU. We're aiming for tentatively fall 2025, and that'll be our next 2 games. We print 2 titles at a time to save us money and also be more, honestly, cost effective and like focused, because there's a lot of limited print companies that I'm sure you guys have got feedback and, viewers are like, hey, I'm waiting premium edition 4 or 5 years. We don't want to do that. We don't want to print offer a bunch of pre-orders and never deliver 4 years later. Like, well, here's Chained Echoes 3 years later. It's like, dude, the customers either moved on or filed chargeback. Like, get it out to them in a respectful time frame, and that's what we try and do.
I mean, you really thought through a lot. I mean, things like doing 2 at once to save on costs and speed and all that stuff. I mean, it is impressive that you're thinking ahead. And I know that sounds like so basic for this in the industry, but you just don't know how many people don't do that. That's where it's like you're doing the right thing, but to be fair, it's a low bar to hit sometimes, but it's
yeah.
So, I mean, how many games do you plan on doing next year?
I mean, it all depends. I'm like thrilled to announce we did get approval with the state of Oregon, so we're going to be scaling up our team this summer with 2 additional roles for social media and graphic design. So it's just taking steps and moving. As I said, I really want to work with Tony Infante, and I think once we can work with him on a good fit for like a video game, we're also looking at like say Hordes of Hell, and it's like this really badass Viking game similar to like Vampire Survivors. If we can get players to kind of latch onto that, I think it'll become similar to old LRG when they had their numbered releases and they focused on that exclusively, because that's all we do. We do like, so Speedolama's number 1, Project Tower's number 2, and next will be 3rd and 4th. And if everybody wants to collect it, full set, it'll be perfect for them, because I mean they're phenomenal, not only just packages but video games that we print. Everything that we do, we're super proud of it.
Where do you see it going from here? Is it just, do you want to keep that growth? Do you want to see it get into actual physical retailers as well? Are you going to take it that far, or are you going to keep it with the online sales only?
Primarily online sales. I am excited to say I loved what LRG did with their Soho event. So we're going to be doing different events once we have the product in hand, hopefully this summer. It's going to like over here at Medford and then maybe up to Portland at like honestly like large flea markets, and then getting people that wouldn't traditionally look online or be into this project, because it's it's a niche market, the Steelbook game collecting. I want to say maybe 5% of 95% of physical collectors might be interested. So being able to get there and have people kind of physically touch it and feel it and be like, hey, this is really cool. It reminds me of vinyl. It's a, really high quality, and that getting that train of thought, like, oh, and then they take it home, they love it. Like, hey man, I want to see if this company has other products. So that's, that's our short-term vision of, not only with the online, but some of these large flea markets.
I like the analogy with vinyl, because honestly, even with somebody who grew up on vinyl, I thought the vinyl craze was going to die out 10 years ago, and it has not. I mean, it's not like it growing and exploding, but it's stabilized and it's right there. I mean, because you're going, like you said, at 5% of a 95% type thing.
Yeah.
How do you market? How do you find your market, and what are you doing to market to them?
Oh, that's a lot of questions. So some of my prior positions working in San Diego was a retail sales manager for Fitbit. I learned a lot about what people are looking for, and then also finding it in the right market. We worked in Best Buys, in Kohl's, and Sears, back when Sears was a thing. Just basically being able to get the product into people would be interested. PlayStation 5 now has over a 70,000, hardware without a million install base. So we only print 2,000. That's including if we do a AAA, we're still only doing 2,000, because I feel like it's our winning number. It's not too much, it's not too little. So being able to allow people to like, hey, this is actually a super limited edition. I respect that. And it's not like, hey, this other company's going to go print it, I don't know, 6 months later. So that's in terms of physical, because we've seen that with like Iron Meat. It's like, here's this version. Oh wait, no, it's not limited. Here's another version. Then LRG will pull that. Oh, here's Lollipop Chainsaw. Oh, another one. So being able to offer something that's actually limited.
So what's your price point?
$49.99. That's what we pretty much try and do for like Indie and double A, and then triple A, kind of whatever they want to get in terms of like the revenue share. So if they want, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks, then we set it higher, $70, $80.
I'm just trying to run the mental math on here. If you're only doing 2,000 unit runs of everything, if you sell 100% of your stock, you know what you're looking at. But I mean, you're saving costs on your side by doing everything off grid and online. So
yeah,
I mean, your margins that you need to hit, I'm assuming, are much lower than the margins that a traditional publisher needs to hit.
Absolutely. If you look at, for example, Red Art Games or You and I, they do large retail versions. Like GameStop's very expensive to like sell through GameStop.com. So with us, it's like we have lower margins. We're passing that on to customers, and more importantly, it's like we're not skipping on the quality. We're giving you a great product. We're also shipping it safely. We're putting it in a box with wrapping, where anymore you just get like a flat mailer. And it's like, here's your video game. Hopefully it doesn't get crushed. And just being able to work with customers and have this high level of customer service, I think that will set us apart. And moving forward, hopefully people will respect that and be like, hey, this 2-person team is pretty awesome. We want to support them. And, because everything, like working with us, we don't charge developers a single cent. If they collaborate with us for like the physical release, we cover all the cost. So it's a win-win for customers, for collectors, everybody.
I'm laughing because I've just over the last couple of days been dealing with FedEx and a delivery when, I work from home. I'm on the grid, but I work from home. I'm here all day long. And yesterday FedEx was like, oh, we just missed you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. I was right here. And they send a picture of, my package in their truck as the delivery thing. And I'm like, so when you're like, here's your picture, hope it's not crushed. I'm just like, yeah, I know. I feel that. I can see that going on. I mean, it sounds like something that you could scale rather quickly if you have, the right amount of sales and things going on.
If the reception's there, our competitor that's unlicensed and uncertified, they print over in China too. They print 2,000 to 4,000, and they do like Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto without permission. They're not licensed though. So with us, it's like, we have a little bit higher quality, or in terms of like what we need to get in terms of profit. But being able to do this, I think if we can hit, 60, 70, 80% of all of our units, we can, keep being able to do this. Because my thing is like, hey, I hope collectors love this. I understand with Speedolama, it doesn't have a retail. There's no standard version. We're offering a free case, so you can make your own standard retail version because we aren't licensed for that. With Project Tower, it's really cool. They're working with Perp Games doing a PEGI, a standard retail, and then here in America, we're going to have the ESRB with our Steelbook. So it's really that way we're not cannibalizing their physical and they're not cannibalizing our physical for collectors of that.
So,
yeah,
once again, this has been my day for having a question and it just like vanished. Oh, so are you currently targeting specific games that you want, or are you open for developers to submit something if they just want to see their game in a Steelbook?
Absolutely. We were approached for Skyline Chronicles. It's an upcoming pirate roguelite. It looks pretty cool. It's got really nice graphics. I'd say it's a pretty higher quality independent title from MFA Games overseas. That would be something, we'll consider and actually, explore with them at length. So if a developer has a property, even if it's only on Steam, we're looking at like, I'm more into like, even like more quirky, more like fan servicey games that are beat 'em ups. I'm looking at one. We don't think we can get it an M rating. I would love to try and see if we could do like an AO, but because they have a hentai sensor in the game, but we're open to pretty much anything that's unique, different, core, actiony style. We're looking at, in terms of racers, we're looking at the Carters 2 and Hot Rod Mayhem. A big fan of racing games, and being able to see these, honestly, like a really nice version of a racing game, that's been a long time. Outside of like maybe Forza or Gran Turismo, you don't see racing games get like really nice physical releases.
Yeah, and there's several like really, really good racing games that are like considered. I mean, it's not one of those major franchises, but you've got Beam, and then the Italian one that I can't ever pronounce that I see my friends playing.
Milestone, they made, yeah.
So you're dealing with, I love a niche. I absolutely love a niche from a business perspective, but oh my God, you have niched a niche. So because you're not selling at physical brick and mortar retail. So
Yeah.
all of your sales is online. Are you using Amazon or GameStop, or is it all straight through your site, or where's your online distribution?
Yeah, our distribution will be directly through our website. You'll be able to get the game at cost. We'll also be selling through Amazon and Walmart at a very small markup because they take about 15 to 20% in terms of store site fees. So it'll be available on Amazon, Walmart, and directly through us for once it's shipping. For pre-orders with if you want to get your order in just to save a spot, that'll be directly through our website. We also ship internationally where Amazon and Walmart will be domestic. So I think 50 United States plus Puerto Rico.
Are they okay with you selling it cheaper than they are?
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean they just have the platform fee, so 20% to somewhere, but we're still trying to make sure we get because we're covering all the manufacturing 100% of that cost.
Yeah.
So once we get that covered, and then we also do revenue share for every copy sold. So it's making sure both us and the developer are taken care of.
I mean, from the digital side.
Oh yeah,
those sites get a little, don't sell somewhere
crazy.
cheaper than me, type thing. So that's cool that they let you do that.
I would say a big question for us is people have been asking, why is there such a price difference? Speedalama is $10 digitally and $50 physically. And that it's just the quality, the time it went into putting into the production, and then also just the cost of manufacturing. We have to cover shipping. We have to cover shipping from China to here. We cover, customer service, paying for the website, taking care of paying the artist that makes the artwork for our special releases. That all takes time and money. So, with us, we're setting at a fair price point, $20 cheaper than our competitors, premium edition, and also LRG, and twice the product quality. If you do so there's five physical releases. There's your standard, there's your holofoil, there's your holofoil slipcover, there's your future pack metal pack, which is like a knockoff steelbook, there's your standard steelbook, and then there's your premium steelbook, that's 3D printed. Ours is the most expensive financially. So with us, we have that twice the product quality versus $34.99, your standard release. $15 gets you a lot better version. Plus we're trying to put everything we can on the disc.
You know the shorter answer to that, don't you, JRod? When they ask you why is it so much more expensive? Because it is, and if you don't like it, just buy the digital version. But I mean,
that's true. But with us, I would say for us, we also Speedalama is very my style. It's very offbeat, so that was kind of off-putting to other limited print publishers, and also. I think for him, his title prior to that was it didn't sell as many units, and he was given feedback from a consultant to the cheaper his game, the more it would sell, which doesn't work for gamers because gamers look at the price point and that's the value of the quality that I'm receiving. So I think he messed up with his price point personally.
Yeah, well, yes,
but
I'm with you 100%.
You can't tell somebody that. After they're like, hey, I made this decision based off this person's input, but that person doesn't, they're only looking at this from, you could sell more because nobody knows about it.
But you don't always. That's the thing. That's why that advice is so wrong. I mean,
it is.
He didn't
even his digital metrics. He didn't even hit those. So that was a huge issue. That and he has no publisher, so nobody knew about the game.
Well, yeah, the marketing aspect of it is a big part. I mean, are you gonna do anything like run Google ads, Facebook ads, or?
Yeah. Once it's in hand, though, I felt it'd be most effective because now people are like, hey, we're pre-ordering, but big thing is our limited print, man, they are so negative and very skeptical because there's been. Frankly, I agree with you guys too. There's been too many companies that want to talk this and say they're going to produce this and never, bring it out to you guys or take 5 years to do it. With us, we already have our physical release here in hand. That's before our time frame and when we said it would be, and then just also, keeping you guys in the loop. We're constantly on social media sharing, hey, this is our production update. We're not like, hey, we'll email you in 6 months and tell you the game is coming when it's, we haven't even submitted anything. So it's just allowing the customer. Yeah, no. So it's, letting people know about that and making it work out.
Pay us and you'll get your game. It's that easy.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, in terms of the challenges? I mean, have you had challenges going and getting rights, or have you pretty much been able to get the games that you wanted to get right now?
No, that's a whole great, fantastic question. I want to say, to start off with, so Fresh Brewed Games, all of our properties are licensed, and we're also super passionate about these developers and publishers we work with. Our direct competitor, none of his products are licensed, so he isn't paying fees to any of the developers, any of the publishers, or any of the artists that have made this work that he is printing. Secondly, with that, we're trying to work with companies that want to work with us. There's a lot of games that we're getting pitched all the time. Hey, can you do this? We'd love to, but the publisher or the developer has to be receptive. Last year, we tried working with my indie game that I wanted to work with was Biogun. Unfortunately, the developers themselves couldn't port that to consoles, so we had to switch. We were looking at Elsie and Speedolama. We went with Speedolama. Our second property, we actually wanted Nico de Rico. I don't know if they've still announced a physical. They just went completely ghost on us. I don't know why. We had a super effective meeting with them, and then we're going to work with either Project Tower or Deadlink. We opted to do one for Project Tower. Just we felt the niche for the specific Space Odyssey was really cool, and it's kind of booming on PlayStation. So we felt that was a good fit for us. Our next properties, we're looking at, I want to say, a lot of first-person shooter. In shooting games, action games for our third SKU, and our fourth SKU, we're looking at racing games. We've been in contact with Trailout and then also Hot Rod Mayhem that have expressed very high interest in working with us. So it's letting the developers and publishers that you guys want games to have this version, let them know that, hey, please reach out to them. A good example of, unfortunately, a misstep we had was, we couldn't do it, was Hotel Barcelona. They just informed us that Cult Games is going to be doing a massive standard retail, but they don't have any plans for our collectors. So it's really unfortunate that, they might have, I want to say, our competitor, they keep doing a bunch of indie games that aren't licensed. So they would probably swoop in, make a knockoff bootleg Steelbook and then, provide it to customers because the standard retail version's out there. And we've been seeing that with a lot of AAA. They're like, hey, we already can do this ourselves, either cheaper or faster. With us, we're not about cheap or fast. We want to take the time, bring that really great quality to it, and just, work with these companies that want to help us. Because when we help them, they can help us. And just getting the rights to some of these IPs, it's crazy. We tried getting a hold of Wolverine from Insomniac Games, and we had I don't know, he said he was a tech guy or some PR guy that had to verify something for Sony, saying he worked for them, and he just was verifying that we were legit. And all we did was just trying to work with them for a Wolverine collaboration. So it's very challenging to say the least for rights for games, and that's not digital.
Yeah, trust me, I'm very familiar. I get to do that job too. If you're the only one doing this level of Steelbook games, and the competitors are doing it as bootleg, black market, have you thought about going to some of the other physical companies and saying, hey, let me do this part of the business for you?
I haven't, just because I felt like they're so close knit. I'm friends with two of the studios. They're good friends of mine. They both have their own, I want to say, financial stress points, so it wouldn't be a good fit for them. Someone like LRG, it'd be a perfect fit for them, or UNI. Here in the U.S., UNI is the biggest retail physical distributor of video games in Walmart, Target, Best Buy. So if we had the opportunity to work with them, but I think at that point, once it gets to that, it's too late. We've tried working with Wu Chang Feathers, and I think they're going to do a Steelbook for it, but again, it's a very rushed, very poor. They're just going to do a standard Steelbook release, either concept art or just the logo on the front. The Thing remastered, fantastic game, but they just slapped the logo on the front and the back. They called it a day, and I'm like, dude, and it's not even center. It's downwards, sideways. It looks like an old DVD Steelbook where they printed a J card on them. So yeah,
it's just
hard. I would love to, but I just don't see these companies wanting to spend extra money because they're already, I guess, probably their profit point. They're already making it.
Yeah, but I mean, just the business side of me says there's no downside to asking. I mean, especially if they don't need to invest anything.
True. I think it would be more like LRG, and I mean they could do it, they just don't do it. So I mean it'd be essentially all on them because they've been getting a lot of like the AA, AAA releases, vast majority recently, and those are the ones that would, your 2000, they would sell out in, no time. And, I think that we could do that with Lead-In, but I think we do like the best job. It's just getting publishers and getting these companies like, hey, we already have retail, and we're trying to like inform them like, hey, we do something totally separate. It's like having a beta and like, like, hey, this is different from that. Like, don't worry, you can do this. We're going to.
So you're doing North America and Europe, right? In terms of shipping,
North America, in terms of Walmart, Amazon, international, around the globe, directly through our website.
Okay, all right. So that's what I said. If you were looking at partnerships anywhere else to get that done, or doing it yourself, and so I mean, but that's going to get expensive too, because these things must have a little bit of weight to them, and you're shipping overseas and everything. Does that just get marked into it?
So we charge for shipping separately. It's $20. It's actually like $21, $22 for like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, Africa, China. But, it's just a fee we eat. We do charge them, but it's not like the max. And we wrap it really high quality, similar to Collectong. They do Mantalab, the distribution for Mantalab. And just, being able to get the product. Because all of our releases are region free. So there's no worrying about the disc or whatever. And I mean, you could also essentially for like Project Tower is a good example. So the other company's publishing a totally different version, which is like a more Souls-like version. If a customer preferred that version, they could buy that disc, swap it out, and put it into a Steelbook. We do that in the movie industry. So if like a good movie is like Django, there's no 4K of it, or Kill Bill, but there's old Steelbooks of it where you could get the new Blu-ray 4K, put it in your Steelbook. There's also that option for like super intense collectors.
Just print your own Steelbook, along the line.
Right.
I mean, this is absolutely fascinating, and honestly, the fact that you're able to do it and still live off grid and have success with it is very impressive. There aren't a lot of companies. I mean, like I said, you're the first one that I've ever seen that is running a company like this. Off the grid. We talk to developers all around the world that are working in some pretty, random locations, but nothing where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm out in the middle of the Oregon mountains and leave me alone and I'll come. It's fascinating. I'm very impressed. I mean, this is your chance, man. Plug something you want to plug. I mean, where can people go to? What's the website? Where do they pre-order? Where do they put suggestions in for new games?
Absolutely. Our website is Fresh Brewed Games. You can Google us. It's freshsteelbookgames.com. For right now, we're going to be going back to freshbrewedgame.com because games is taking. So that we'll be going to that in April. In terms of our products, Speedolama is currently available. It'll be shipping summer 2025. Project Tower is going to go up for pre-orders next month. Very excited about that one. That'll be shipping middle of summer to end of summer. In terms of future IPs, please send us on Facebook, LinkedIn. Feel free to add me, JRod Gingerich. I don't really have too many social media handles. I just use my personal for most of them. Feel free to tweet me or email us if you have any recommendations. If you're a developer, definitely get in contact. Also, before you sign any agreements in terms of like your standard physical, because we've also ran into issues with like Head Up where like, hey, this game has a physical release, but there's no Steelbook and we want to do a Steelbook, but the other one had worldwide exclusivity, even though we're not we wouldn't be in conflict with that. So make sure either you're reaching out to us before you enter that physical release partnership, or put it in your document with your when you sign for a digital publisher. Like, let them know you want to have final say.
Make sure you read your contracts. That's what it boils down to.
Yes.
At the end of the day. Yes. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, man, this was fun. This was fantastic. I think this is, Dan may correct me, this may be the first time we've done an interview from the car. So, and you're not in traffic. That helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been pretty awesome.
I also work for the school district, so I just got done with my job for the morning, and I'm happy to be here. I'm proud to support Oregon, our small business. We are a small business. We give back. We're also working with Klamath Falls. We're going to be hiring high schoolers to do some paid internships for a video game studio. So phenomenal opportunity for kids to get involved, and that'll be summer 2025, working with us through Fresh Brewed Games. And it's a fully remote gig, so it's fantastic for kids. They get to work with me and our artists directly, so it's a great experience for them. We're able to help these developers, and really, it's a great way of giving back to the community.
Are you going to GDC?
I have a ticket, but I'm looking at utilizing those funds to do some marketing advertising for Speed Alarm and Project Tower, so I don't know if I will be in person. I've been trying setting up meetings.
If you've already got the game set for this year that you want to publish, you're not going to gain a ton out of going to GDC. I mean, so I would recommend you use that money for marketing instead of going to GDC, because there's plenty of smaller events. I mean, it almost makes more sense for you to go to PAX than it does for you to go to GDC.
Yeah, but really, you could sign in to Meet to Match and set up meetings and just tell people, look, I'm not going to be at GDC, but right. I don't know if that's a hack or if I should say.
I mean, you can, but you already get so many people on the platform that are like, I'm only going to use this for meetings I have, here at the show.
Another interesting point. So I actually attended GDC in 2024. Two of my biggest meetings, one with Nexon for the first Berserker Kazan. They rescheduled on me, and now they're only doing a physical with no Steelbook, and my competitor's doing the bootleg of it. So I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity of companies, canceling or skipping on us. Our second one is Mighty Koi. We actually set up and we rescheduled twice with them to do Thorgal. It's a super awesome, like Norse epic AAA video game coming to PlayStation, but they rescheduled on us. So hopefully, that's one of the reasons I'm looking at like just skipping it, because if I'm setting up meetings and these guys are skipping on me because like, hey, you're so small, I mean, it might be small to like say Sony, because like what is half of 100,000, or that, for example, that'd be 50,000. 50,000 might not be a lot for them, but for like a double A or triple or independent developers, it's it's extra money they can use for helping out their team in their next projects.
I mean, completely off the cuff, I would totally recommend you saving that money and going to PAX instead up in Seattle. And it's not the
definitely. I mean, that's well, it was just also like the bad, like I met with like we had like 7 meetings and probably maybe 3 or 4 rescheduled, 2 no-showed. So it was very hard, challenging last year.
That's honestly not that bad, because I mean, this happened. I've been going to GDC for 20 some years, and it's the same as every other big conference. Once you get there, you can have your schedule laid out perfectly. The minute you hit the ground there, it's going to go to hell. I mean, that just happens every single time. So if you made it through it and you only had 2 no-shows, that's actually not bad. That's
nice.
But let me know if you end up out there. Dan and I are going to be both going to be there. The first time I'm going to actually, Dan and I are going to meet in the flesh after 7 or 8 years of doing this. But JRod, this is fantastic, man. I wish you all the success in the world. And if you're trying to reach somebody you can't reach, let me know.
Right?
I'll help get you in touch. But yeah, no, thank you. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll be when we move back to Oregon, I'll only be about an hour away from Klamath Falls. That's just right.
That's awesome. We'll have to grab some. Right, we'll have to grab some buffet. I love buffets.
Some Dutch bros. That's what I'm looking forward to. Some Dutch bros, because we don't have that here in Florida. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for hanging out. If you're not in the Discord, join us, discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. Also, you go to indiegamebusiness.com, sign up for our newsletter and get the list of funders and list of publishers, which is an amazing list. And thanks so much. We are going to be back next Friday.
Yeah, we're going to have a fan favorite with us next week. Joshua Garrity is coming on to drop the truth like nobody drops it. I think the last time Joshua was on, we went for almost 2 hours on the subject of what publishers are looking for indie games. So yeah, never a dull moment when Josh was around. Love that guy. All right.
Awesome.
Y'all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you
All right.
next week.
Bye.